Welcome to the second half of the video conference that I'm gonna do today. In this second half, I'm gonna discuss a little bit about the for loop structure. In the first part, we already discussed the while loop, so some small exercises. In the second half, I'm gonna discuss about the for loop. So I'm going back to the material that I have. Let's open it up. In the for loop structure, the things are a little bit different than while loop. Essentially, a for loop and while loop, they do the same stuff. They are both control loop structures, which means they control the statement first. They control the condition first, then execute it. However, the way that these are approached are different. For loop is the most popular loop that you will come across. Okay? This is the most common loop structure that you will come across in any type of programming. And the reason for this, that it is a very compact loop, means that the expressions that go inside the for loop is very much in one line, so it's very easy to follow. For example, in expression 1, you are giving an initial condition, which will execute first. In the expression 2, this is after expression 1, and it's a logical expression or condition that controls the iteration. And finally, the expression 3 is when the condition is true, is executed. So in short, instead of writing these lines separately, one statement that is the definition of the iteration, the start of the iteration, another line that is the condition, and another line that if the condition is true, what it's going to execute. While you write these statements differently in while loop, they are actually together in for loop. So they are written on one line. And this is the main reason why for loop is preferred compared to the while loop. It is much more compact, everything is one line, so hence in a big program it's much easier to follow. Here is a written style. Here is, you can see examples of how it is written. So when you write a for loop, you define a variable. As you can see, this is the initial state of the value. Then you create an upper or lower limit for that specific value to reach to an outcome. And with each statement, you can execute a specific command, such as the I value or the A value as well. So when we compare the while loop with for loop, you can see that in the while loop, you initialize a statement, you put the condition, and whatever updates on these statements are done inside the while loop. With the for loop, however, all of these are written on one line. So you initialize it, you define the condition, you update it, and the only thing that goes inside is what the loop is going to execute. Rather than the updates, you focus on what the loop is going to execute. This is why for loop is much more popular than while loop. When you are learning the loops for the first time, I would prefer to explain with while loop because it's easier to follow. It's like one step at a time. But once you have understood how the loop structure works, it is much more practical to use for loop. So when we come in here, we can see the same kind of examples being solved with the for loop. So write a program to display hello world on screen, for example, for 5 times. We solve this exercise in while loop, and you can see that the same exercise is done in for loop in here. It starts with 0, it goes up to 5, and each time you increase it. Before we were doing it in separate steps, we said that count is this, there's the while loop, measuring the count, and the initialization, the updates itself is going inside the loop. Now it's all in one line. So it is putting the line in there, comparing the statement, and also increasing it. Okay? So that is the core structure. Stop playing with the screen, and if you have any questions, just ask it, okay? Or otherwise, I'll get the rights from you to type anything on my screen, guys. Please don't do that. Any questions? Okay, I'm gonna solve a couple of questions then, and if you don't have any questions, I'm just gonna end up the lecture, because since you don't have ask any questions, it seems like my videos and the lecture notes, everything is clear. So you can follow the lectures without me being very much interactive with you. As I told you many times, you need to ask me questions in these sessions. I am not supposed to do lectures through these online sessions. I'm supposed to approach you and get questions from you, such as, I don't understand exercise 18 on slide 3. Can you please help me to solve it? And maybe we'll solve it together, and maybe some other people have similar problems. This is a discussion session, not a lecture, okay? Your lectures or log notes are already uploaded, the videos are already uploaded there. That is where you do your individual learning, and you only come to class to discuss stuff with me. But since you don't ask any questions, I'm going to cut this very short today. And next week, hopefully, you will approach me with a more productive, more constructive way, so we can do these lectures properly. So let's go down and solve a question about for loop. This is an interesting one. Write a program which will list all letters in English alphabet. The program will show English alphabet both in capital and also in lowercase letters. The English alphabet starts from A and ends up with Z. So how do we do such a thing? Well, basically what you need to do is you create the same kind of statements. So I'm gonna go in there and save this as for exercise. So I'm gonna erase all of this part, everything about it, and show everything in the English alphabet. Now, one of the things that you should pay attention is that so far in the loops, we only typed numbers. So everything we typed was a number, like integer I is equals to 1, for example, or 77, or whatsoever. But this is not always the case. You can also define characters. You can start with a character if you want, such as a letter, and initialize it to a specific value, such as A. So whenever I say character letter A, this means that it starts with A, and then it will go up to something else. Then we can also define a uppercase letter, indicating an uppercase A. Remember that in C and C++, one letter, one character should be displayed with one quotation mark. But if you have multiple characters, such as your name, that should be displayed with string value, usually like this, with two quotation marks, okay? So if you want to display only one character, you use single quotation mark. If you want to display multiple characters, you use double quotation marks. Some languages differentiate this automatically, so you don't have to manually type it single or double. Whereas in C and C++, you must make sure that the characters you type, one character should be single quotation, multiple characters should be written down with double quotation marks. Now that we cleared that out in the way, we can write the for loop. So I'm going to come in here, type the for loop itself. Now the letter starts with A already, so we can simply type the same thing. You can type the letter in here as well instead of there, so you can simply leave this as empty should you want to, like that. And then you define the upper limit. In this case, the upper limit for this specific letter is Z. So A to Z. And I'm going to make it equals to, just to cover up the range of Z as well. And then increase it one by one. So each time we execute this, we will actually increase the letter. Now, only thing you have to do is to show the letter. You can also leave a blank space in between so that the letters will be displayed with some blank space. And as you put this, you can also go to the next line. You can come in here and show the alphabet. Something like this. English alphabet in lowercase letters. And you can put an end line here just to make sure that it will be listed on any line. Let's just run this to see the outcome. So as you can see in here, English alphabet in lowercase letters, and it displays every single letter in the English alphabet, starting from A, going down to Z, and every other letter is displayed there, one by one. Plus plus letter means one by one. Now that we have done this, we can see that these brackets in here, because we only have one line underneath it, doesn't really matter, doesn't really change anything. You can actually ignore the brackets for this specific question because you only have one line underneath for loop, and you can see that the result is exactly the same. Nothing changes. I'm going to put it a little bit inside so that it will be aligned, so you can see that A, B, C, D, whatever is displayed there. So you can also do the same thing using uppercase letters. So letter, this time I'm going to put it A. Letter itself, less than or equals to uppercase Z and plus plus letter. Remember that the C language and C++ as well, they are case sensitive, which means a lowercase is different than an uppercase. Even if you type exactly the same variable, because one letter or multiple letters change, the entire structure is changed, so it will be reserved as a different variable. So I'm going to show the letter now, just as I did with the other question, and leave a blank space. Once this is done, you can also show the English alphabet in uppercase letters. So you can come in there. So this line, you can show it like English alphabet in uppercase letters. And show it. Oops, we have a problem there. Let's see. We didn't put the semicolon. So let's just try to run this. And as you can see from the results, English alphabet in lowercase and also uppercase, they are displayed on the screen. So you can use for loop and other loop structures not only for numbers, but also letters. It doesn't have to be a number always. It could be whatever you want it to be. Remember that programming is only limited with your imagination and nothing else. This is a tool for you to create, and what you can create is basically limited with what you can imagine. So let's move on. We've seen this example. There's a solution for it in here as well. And that's it. That's more or less what the for loop does. Let's all go and see the do while loop. Now the do while loop is an interesting loop. It's a little bit different than the regular while and the for loop, because this loop has a specific structure. While the while and the for loop first check the condition and then executes it, do while does the opposite. So every time that you go and write a while or a for loop, what it does is it initializes this statement and then it checks it. It looks up whether this value is less than or equals to that value, and then it will execute whatever underneath there. But with the do while case, this is not true. What do while does is it first runs the condition and then it basically checks it. So it does a reverse of a while loop. What it does is it executes first, then checks up the condition. Now, whatever you write inside the do statement will be executed even if the condition is false. This allows some statements to work in the while loop, always work at least once, regardless of the condition. So in short, do while loop executes the statements and it does the control afterwards. So this means that even if the control statement you have is wrong, it will still be executed at least once. This is particularly useful when you want to display a menu, for example. Because even if the user doesn't want anything from the menu, they will regardless check the menu at least once to decide whether or not they want something from that menu. So in those kind of circumstances where even if the user interaction or whatever the decision will be taken has nothing to do with the options you offered, you will still display them. In those kind of situations, do while is very useful. It has a specific use when you want to create such as a screen to show a menu, or do you want to continue. So even if the user doesn't want to continue, you still need to ask this. So you still display it at least once. And that is the core structure of do while. It is not used as often as for, definitely not. So you will not see this loop that often in programming, but it has a very specific use, so it is nice to know it. Okay, so let's see how you can apply this. I'm gonna create another loop structure. And save this as do while. The common statements, I'm just going to copy paste them. And put them in here. Now assume that you have a value called x and the x value is 1. And you want to write a do while. To write the do while statement, you just type do and define brackets. Now, whatever you type inside the do statement will be executed regardless of checking any conditions. So there is no check is done here. Nothing is being checked yet. It automatically executes. Assume that you want to display the X value. X value is X itself. And you define, you want to display this. As long as the X value is less than 0. Now this is how you write the while, do while. So you put the do and the while at the end. So remember in the first exercise when we solved the while loop, we were writing the while at the top. So it has brackets and a body. In here, the do has a body and the while is written down at the end with a semicolon. Don't forget the semicolon. No other loop has semicolon at the end, but do while does, because this is where it ends, okay? Once you have written down, you can see this. Now, when we look at this value, X is 1, and as long as we said X value is less than 0, but because X is 1, it is actually never less than 0. So if this was a regular while loop or a for loop, this loop structure would never execute in the first place because X is initially 1 and it is not less than 0. However, even though this condition is false because X is 1 and it is not less than 0, it will still execute at least once for the do while. If you keep decreasing the value of X, it will execute it forever. But if you actually run this thing for once, it will execute once regardless of this condition. So that is the meaning of do while. So when I run this thing, you will see the outcome as X value is 1. Even though the X value should have been only displayed when this is less than 0, it still displays it. Okay? That is the core structure of do while. Even if the condition itself is first, it executes the statements, then it checks it. Rather than checking the condition and then executing it, it executes the statement and then checks the structure. Okay? That is the difference between do while and while. So let's create a screen such as with adding numbers. So I'm going to create a new source file, do while exercise 2. In this specific one, I want to keep adding numbers. And each time when the user adds numbers, we'll ask them if you want to continue or not. So let's write the question here. Write a program in using do while where user will be asked to enter numbers. Each time the user enters a number, add it to a sum and display the sum. Once the sum is displayed, ask the user whether or not they want to continue. If the user presses Q or Q, they quit the program. If they press any other key, the program continues. An exercise like this is a perfect template to use a do while. So basically what we're going to do in this specific exercise is that we're going to ask the user to enter numbers continuously. And once they have entered these numbers one by one, what's going to happen is we're going to keep adding them. And when the user actually presses Q, it will exit the program. So to do that, I'm going to define number the user is going to enter, and also a sum, which is going to be keep adding the numbers on top of one another. So how do we do this? We're going to put a dual here, and we're going to say something like enter a number. And we're going to get the number. Each time we get the number, we're going to add it on the top of the sum, which is in this case 0. So I keep adding on the top. Once we have done this, we can show the sum. Sum is equals to whatever sum value you have at the time. Backslash. Now this is the do while part. We're gonna do this process at least once, but then we're gonna ask the user if they want to do it again. So we're gonna say something like, do you want to continue? Press Q to quit. Let's just type that in another line. The out. Press Q to quit. Press any other key. Now that we have done this, we can get it as a character. So the user choice can be counted as a character. And we need to define a condition where this should be true, in case that we can define whether this is going to continue or not. And all you have to do is to initialize the choice is either Q or Q, the capital Q. So as long as the choice itself is not Q, the lowercase q, and as long as the choice itself is not equals to capital Q, then you can keep the program running. So that is how we're going to deal with this. So we're going to go back and type that statement. We're going to put a while here. The choice itself is not Q. And you can put an end here. The choice itself also not. So I'm going to put the brackets there. Just to see the outcome. Now these are done. So we're going to run the program to see the outcome. So when the program runs, you can see that it asks me a question. Press please enter any number. So I'm going to enter 5, and the sum is 5. I'm going to press any other key. I press on P, as you can see, and I'm going to enter another number 10. Now the sum should be 15 because I entered 5. Now I'm going to enter in 10. The sum should be 15, as you can see. Now I'm going to enter another key. Let's enter K this time and add another number. Now I'm going to enter 15. So 15 plus 15, this should be 30. 30. Now that I reach to the end, I'm just going to enter Q. And as you can see, the program quits. It exited the program itself, and it no longer executes. So this is a perfect template for you to use the while loop, because even if you want to quit directly, you will still execute one statement. Okay, you will still need to do one statement. It is particularly useful when you want to offer an option such as, do you want to continue? Do you want to see the menu? Something like that. Even though the person who's going to use the program is just going to quit, it is a nice idea to execute it at least once. Now, this is where I'm going to stop for today. I'm almost reaching to the end of this video now, and we are in the last 8 minutes. You can find more exercises on the while on the slides. So next week, what I want you to do is to check out these slides, and I will also record videos this week. And when you come back next week, please approach me with questions, okay? Things that you don't understand, either on your lab sheet or in the lecture material, anything you are struggling with, you need to ask me. And you also need to, of course, solve the lab sheets. Every week we have lab sheets available in here, as you can see. They are unlocked, control structures and loops. So if you open up this lab sheet, you can see that there are many questions there. So slides are not the only resource that you can solve questions. You will see with each lab sheet there are around 20 questions. So please solve them. You can solve actually all questions up until 18. 19 and 20 I haven't covered yet. I'm planning to cover these sets, the nested loop structures, next week. But up until question 18, you can solve every single question on your lab sheet. Now, this is where I'm going to stop for today. I'm not going to do any more stuff. So just to summarize what we have done today, we have seen loops, we have seen the while loop, the for loop, and finally do while loop. Regarding these exercises, do you have any questions? Hello, is there anyone alive there? Can you follow me throughout the course? Do you want me to upload these videos to a YouTube channel so you can rewatch it? Okay, cool. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna stop, and I will also upload these videos so you can rewatch them should you want to. Okay, you can follow the exercises that I saw. Thank you for coming today, guys. All right, I really appreciate you attending to my course, although participation today was really low. I appreciate that you come. I will set up a next meeting next week. Please come more prepared. Please ask me questions, things that you don't understand, things that you tried to solve but didn't work for you. All right. I still don't know how the exam procedure will be taken because we haven't been informed. They are still discussing this on the faculty and also rectorate board, because they are trying probably to deliver the best and most fair situation. My guess is that we will not have an online exam, and we will have the exam when we return back to university, because having an online exam would be unfair, I guess, to many people, because some of the students, this is a very crowded class, some of the students do not have proper internet access. So they are currently discussing to do the exams when we go back. But when I get more information, I will announce it on my sessions, all right? So thank you for coming once again. I will upload this video on YouTube so you can watch it. Have a lovely day.